Welcome back. We hope that you enjoyed the first part and there was something useful for you, and it will be continuing very useful for you. We have now our agency in Malta that we were missing from our online part. They will start with it, and then we will follow with the colleagues who are thankfully here with us today. But first we give the floor to our colleagues from Malta.
I'm sorry, today is a day off in Malta, and I was a bit late to come to the office. So I will not use a lot of your time. So I will present the European Union Agency for Asylum. The abbreviation is UAA. The headquarters are in Valletta, Malta. It's known previously as EASO. So the mandate and tasks are supporting member states in applying the common European asylum system, which is known as the package of EU laws to govern asylum, international protection and reception conditions, acting as a resource for member states in the field of international protection, which means provision of practical, legal, technical, advisory and operational assistance. And the ultimate aim of the agency is to ensure harmonization of asylum practices in all EU plus countries. Moving on to procurement, the primary focus and needs are operational support. We operate on the basis of operational plans in many countries in EU, which is through provision of infrastructure, other supplies and services. For example, currently we are buying supply services in Italy, Greece, Cyprus, Spain, Malta, Belgium, the Netherlands, Bulgaria, Romania, Germany. For example, modular units, containers, interims, working stations, resettlement facilities, interpretation services. Then another focuses on technical assistance, for example, services related to country of origin information, collection of asylum-related data, and last but not least, of course, we had to ensure horizontal needs of the agency, so we are purchasing services related to events, communication, ICT supplies and services, facility management related services, security services, etc., etc. So the main procurement info is that the total budget for 2025, as you may see, is almost 240 million euros. In 2024, we launched 53 procurement procedures. We awarded 51 contracts, and we also signed over 2,000 specific contracts or order forms under framework contracts. Our main tip is that please monitor and reactively respond to the procedures that we have published, because sometimes we are facing challenges in attracting the market. What is not mentioned, we also started to do grants, to grant, and likewise we have a lot of remunerated external experts. Thank you very much for this possibility to present. Thanks.
This one we finalized our online part, and we give the floor to the colleagues being here with us physically.
Good morning, everyone. In the meantime, my name is Elena Sanchez. I come on behalf of the European Medicines Agency. As you may know, we are now in the Netherlands. After the Brexit, we moved our headquarters to the Netherlands, Amsterdam. And can I have the... Sorry, could you hear me before? Okay, here it. It's the European Environment Agency. I think it's okay. Sure.
Sorry. Okay.
It's okay. Okay. So again, my name is Elena Sanchez. I come from the European Medicines Agency. We are based in the Netherlands after the abrupt Brexit. Actually, we are celebrating the 30th anniversary of the agency, so 30 years since we started our very important, I would say, mandate. The main responsibilities and mandate of EMA is to ensure the scientific evaluation, supervision and safety monitoring of human and animal medicines to become available for the EU citizens. Our core activities include authorizing and monitoring medicines, facilitating development, innovation and access to them, and also to monitor the safety of these medicines along the life cycle. Our main procurement focus and needs, they're quite varied. We are a big agency. To start with, sound functioning of the agency, all the basic services and supplies that we need for this purpose, like related to facilities, HR, finance, audit, legal. Those more specifically related to our mandate or core activities, scientific studies, Darwin EU Coordination Center, subscriptions and access to healthcare, data and data sets, strategic communications, and data management services. On the IT side, we, of course, have big inter-institutional contracts with Commission, DIGIT, for the acquisition of hardware, software, services. Also have our own run procedures related to our regulatory stakeholder applications and EMA's cloud strategy and architecture modernization. Just as a glimpse of our numbers or some figures of your interest, we have 122 own, run, ongoing direct and framework contracts concluded with 91 unique suppliers. This was up to December 2024. We count with a full contract portfolio, including both own and interinstitutional contracts of 466, direct and framework contracts. We concluded between 2023-2024 35 own procurement procedures, and our average annual procurement budget last year, quite exceptional figure last year because we had a lot of renewals and we had a big IT consultancy contract, so it was roughly 300 million euro. Of course, if you want to check more about our activities and our needs, you can visit our buyer's profile, which is in our website. And as last and as top procurement tip from us, before submitting your offer, please check that all the information, documents, everything, it's included. Especially you fully address the award criteria, which is very important. Now over to my colleague.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Corina Samson. I'm coming from the European Environment Agency in Copenhagen, Denmark. I'm really happy to be here to present you the procurement opportunities at our agency. The mandate of the EA is to provide independent environmental information to support sustainable policies and decision-making. And our work involves monitoring trends, supporting the EU policies, managing environmental data flows through networks such as IONET. Looking at the 2024 year, the EA's procurement budget was approximately 42 million euros, with around 50 procurement procedures run, which ended in a bit more than 50 contracts. At the moment, we have over 90 framework contracts ongoing. I can't say about the direct ones. I didn't get those figures. I didn't know that my colleagues will present number of contracts, so this is just from the top of my head. Looking at 2025, our procurement plan outlines a diverse range of tenders covering data monitoring, environmental data monitoring, data services, IT solutions, communications, and operational support, like all the other agencies. And our procurement needs focus on 6 main areas: environmental monitoring and data services, which support reliable data for land, climate, and biodiversity monitoring, information systems and technical support aimed at enhancing digital tools for efficient environmental data management, communication and outreach services, which ensure environmental knowledge is accessible and engaging, administrative and support services, essential for facilitating smooth operations, the Copernicus Program Initiative, which contributes to Europe's Earth observation efforts, and international collaboration and capacity building, which strengthen cooperation beyond the EU. Our top procurement tip is to ensure compliance with all the requirements. So carefully review the tender specifications, demonstrate relevant experience and expertise, and submit a clear, well-structured proposal before the deadline, obviously. Our procurement plan is published on our website. You find the link here in the presentation. And we also have useful information for the tenderers on our website. And SDA plays a key role in supporting Europe's environment and the sustainability goals. We rely on strong partnerships to do that, to complete our mission. So we encourage you to stay informed about our procurement needs and opportunities so you potentially become one of our partners. Thank you.
Hello everyone, good morning. My name is Suvi Turkki. I'm Procurement Officer at ECDC, so European Centre for Disease Prevention and Control. We're located in Stockholm, Sweden. And our agency is aimed at strengthening Europe's defences against infectious diseases. I'm sure you've heard of us at least during the COVID-19. So our main areas of work are surveillance, so we're trying to detect any possible threats to the human health, outbreak preparedness and support, so we're helping the member states to be prepared in case of an outbreak, scientific advice, the member states can ask for an advice how to deal with the particular situation, microbiology and molecular surveillance, which is basically tracing and identifying pathogens. Then we have public health training, which is mainly addressed to the public health professionals through our program EPIET and UFEM. And then the health communication regarding all of the above, which is now also more and more addressed to the general public and not just public health professionals. So, excuse me. Our primary procurement focus is, of course, research and studies, but also digital transformation, which we mean IT, actually. So a lot of our systems need IT support. So last year, in 2024, we signed 24 framework contracts for accumulated value of over 53 million. So this is to be spent during the next 4 years. And I have listed here some examples of our kind of recurrent procurement. So these are the contracts that we more or less all the time have valid, and we procure them every 4 years. So there's the whole genome sequencing, which is the tracing and identifying the DNA of the pathogens. Mathematical modeling, who is trying to predict and follow the spread of infection in the society. Media monitoring, that is screening the worldwide media to get early signs of a possible infectious disease spreading somewhere. Then, of course, the software development and IT consultancy services that are supporting internally our bespoke systems. And then we also organize a scientific conference, which is very famous in the field of public health. So it's called ESCAIDE, organized every other year in Stockholm and every other year in another European city. In 2025, we are launching 18 open calls, as you may remember from the previous presentation, and 33 negotiated procedures. So these are the ones below the directive threshold, 143,000 euros. In the procurement plan, we have calls such as vaccine effectiveness studies, analysis, development, and consultancy in the field of e-learning, One Health training. So One Health is a program that's addressing the society as a whole, trying to stop the antimicrobiological resistance. Yes, so basically the resistance to the antibiotics. But we also have a call for specialized furniture, works and maintenance in our building, and travel agency services. This year we will be spending 28 million euros through the procurement procedures or procurement that is already in place. And my tip would be to read the tender documents in good time and make questions, because as it was already mentioned, we are also humans, so sometimes there might be an error that makes all the difference. So the sooner we get to know, the sooner we can correct and continue the call. So it will help us also to make our calls better. Thank you very much.
Good morning again. My name is Sotirios Daniil. I'm a procurement officer in ENISA. ENISA is the European Union Agency for Cybersecurity in Athens. We're a small agency of 120 people approximately. ENISA is dedicated to achieving a high common level of cybersecurity across Europe. We contribute, according to our mandate, to the EU cyber policy. We help Europe to prepare for cyber challenges of tomorrow. Also, we're helping Europe in order to boost resilience of the Union's infrastructure. And of course, we're trying to keep Europe's society and citizens digitally secure. As you can see in the slide, there are two main categories of our procurement needs. The first category is related to our mandate, and the second one is related to more general services and supplies that every agency needs. Concerning our primary procurement focus and needs, we are talking about cybersecurity services, development of support for operational and cooperation tools. We need services related to market analysis and standardization in cybersecurity, consultancy services, and analysis of cybersecurity investment and business resilience. The more generic services and supplies that we need are associated with web development services, facility management services, of course, mobile and devices and accessories. And last year we had also a big tender for buying branded promotional materials that we need for our events in ENISA. I don't have it here in the slide. We have more than 400 active specific contracts and framework contracts in 2024. Our budget is, at the current moment, in the year 2025, 38.4 million, is a little bit lower in relation to 2024. But this year we also expecting some additional funding from the Commission in order to publish some tender procedures related to cybersecurity services. All this information related to procurement, as everybody has mentioned before, it's available in the Fund and Tender portal and also in our homepage. And my only recommendation would be to read the tender specifications carefully. Everything is there. We don't hide nothing from you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Monte Nijlande. I'm here representing European Commission, and currently I'm assigned to representation here in Riga in administration section. So briefly about the representation itself. So European Commission has presence in all 27 member states. European Commission representation in general and also in Riga act as the main communication link between the Commission and national authorities, organizations and citizens. for some key responsibilities. That includes what we are dealing with here, is supporting our president and the commission. Then we also assist in organizing visits by the commission and other senior EU officials. We manage relations with media and social media platforms. We engage with public through discussions, events, and information campaigns about EU policies and priorities. And last but not least, we also provide the European Commission with analysis and insights into Latvia's political, economic, and social landscape. And when we move to the procurement itself, so here, the representation here in Riga is quite small representation. We are 12 plus colleagues here. So our budget allocation is divided into administrative and operational budget. And for the administrative budget, that is linked to our to support to our building and running of the EU house, which is based here on Aspazijas Boulevards 28. And then for the operational budget allocation, we cover all our activities that is mainly linked with communication, event management, and outreach activities. For the specific audience today, however, I would like to invite to explore the options Commission headquarters are proposing. For example, there are currently around 20 ongoing framework contracts in the domain of communications. That involves digital web services, promotional material, event management, research on also public and press relations, evaluation and impact assessments in the field of communication. And then in the last section, we included a link to our webpage. I have to, little disclosure that the webpage has been updated as we speak. So by tonight, there should be all information updated. So as I mentioned, we are small representation, and basically we act mainly with the procedures below this threshold, below 143,000. So to give you some example, in past 2 years, we have had 2 framework contracts, and we are planning for the next 2 years having 2 additional launches on communication activities and also on event management. However, in this link, you can see all the announcements that we are posting for ex-ante publication. And then lastly, for the tip, I would suggest, if you haven't done it, to explore and consult frequently the EU Funding and Tenders portal. Thank you very much.
Do you have any questions to the here that just presented their agencies? Or you are now under shock, or I don't know, thinking already approach in B2B part? I hope that you are in a sleep mode. That's the most important. Have you found already some ideas for me? I hope. Have you? Nobody? No ideas yet? So you need to listen carefully then to find some ideas, I guess. So then I would suggest that we put a new picture, so to say, new agency, and to go ahead. I just would like to add, as Mo said, that representation is small, mainly in the member states. Digitalization and representation, and sometimes they also slump together with the representations on a base principle.
So, my name is Christos Georgiadis. I represent Frontex, and I will try to give an overview, as the colleagues before. Mission and tasks, more or less, you have here probably is related to border management, security at the borders. It is a fight against cross-border crime, etc., and plus return activities. This is the big picture, this is the bigger perspective, I would say. And of course, there are intelligence-driven functions, there are Coast Guard functions, there is cooperated with other EU agencies, Europol, EFCA, we heard before about fisheries control. With the Asylum Agency, there is a broader cooperation with Commission and DG Home. And the big, let's say, aspiration is to become the first uniformed law enforcement service in Europe. So it's the first, because we don't have European police, European army, so we have European Coast Guard and Border Guard service. It is a service, let's say, approximately 2,000 people for the moment, and there is aspiration to grow further. There are declarations from various politicians that it can reach 30,000. We see. We anticipate in Greece, but we keep our expectations to see how it will develop. So what I wanted to say that this whole animal, Frontex, has a lot of needs which are satisfied mainly via procurement. So from the area surveillance, you need drones, you need vessels. For the uniform service we mentioned before, you need uniforms, you need weapons, you need training centers, you need hotels in order to, you need rented cars, you need medical providers, you need psychological support. So it is a full-fledged operational agency, and this creates a lot of needs in supplies, needs in services, etc. And obviously in premises, and we are operating mainly in Warsaw, the headquarters, but in two main buildings, and we have also a lot of locations abroad. We have offices, we have contingents, and we will create also Adena offices very soon. So all of this creates needs for procurement tenders, create needs for your offers and your collaboration. The budget this year, it's let's say 100 million above 1 billion. Each year we have an increase, 10, 15, 20%, depends. More or less, you can remember the 1 billion. And also here I want to say that approximately 700 million refer to procurement. This procurement is operational and administrative. I don't know exactly your company's profile to see how we can match those things, but as I said before, operational could be from aerial surveillance, drones, vessels, etc. Administrative, more ICT. This year we have 3 big framework tenders in ICT, development, time and means. We will launch our first dynamic purchase system, if you are familiar with this system of Commission. So a lot of opportunities in ICT domain. I would say that this year we will reach more than 250 million in ICT tenders, and there is interest. I cannot say that there is no interest from the market. We had the biggest number of submissions so far in our history. in ICT tender this year, we had 64 offers. However, there is room for participation, there is room for tendering, and for subcontracting. If I could, okay, the numbers you will see, more or less the contracts, but if I could say, apart from that deep study, our past operational purchases, etc., yes, this is good. You have to study a little bit to see how it goes, to follow carefully the annual procurement plan. It is in a transparent way published in our site, and we run usually 2 amendments per year. So be cautious that can be amended because it's dynamic, the environment, and we add tenders or we cut tenders. However, for me, it is to be understood that there is an opportunity. And this opportunity doesn't mean that affects only big companies or small companies. You have to define your strategy and to follow that strategy. Having said that, I have seen very successful candidates, very successful tenderers, when, even though they are very big companies, they are going as subcontractors in a consortium. It's not a matter of pride, it is a matter of efficiency and of success. So check the tenders, check where you have competitive advantage and cooperate with the market. Not needed to be local contractor, but there is the best contractor in the field, the best knowledge in the field, and you are the best in a certain area, either niche or not. So try to find your competitive advantage and don't be afraid to cooperate. We support the cooperation, we support the synergies, and in subcontracting we support even subcontracting from third countries. So keep all of this in mind, and more than happy for questions afterwards. Thank you. Floor to BEREC.
Yes, thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Diana Jautrama. I'm working for the BEREC office, Agency for Support for BEREC, that is located here in Riga, in Latvia, not far from the ministry. So the agency that is the closest one to the Latvian economic operators. This agency has been established and is located in Riga already since 2011. So already 14 years there is an agency in Latvia, and also we are dealing, of course, with the mandate that is our main task to support the BEREC. As you already heard from my colleagues, the BEREC stands for the body of European regulators for electronic communications. So even our agency is quite small in comparison to others. We still have a very significant role in EU market, especially regarding electronic communications, because the idea of this is to harmonize the electronic communications market across the EU member states and of course also third countries, the candidate countries. And our task as the BEREC office is to support this body that is consisting of representatives from national regulatory authorities from all EU member states. And as the office here in Latvia, we are, of course, for all the tasks that are assigned to the BEREC, we are also implementing and ensuring that they can fulfill their tasks in full capacity. So for that reason, of course, consisting of 50 people, colleagues working for the BEREC office, this is not sufficient for us to implement all the tasks. That's why we need procurement. That's why we outsource our services. And we also have, we can divide these services, and in the middle, this is the for BEREC needs and for the BEREC office needs. And of course, the main ones are for the BEREC needs, and what we are doing, we are organizing different events for the BEREC. Like they are coming together and discussing the development in the telecommunications markets. For that reason, there is a need to organize different events like working group meetings and stakeholders forums. Of course, in order to develop this market, there is a need also to do studies and consultancies. For example, at the moment, there is ongoing procurement for the study on data centers, and there is still you can still apply if that is your market. Also for ICT services, there are different databases and registers that we need to implement in order to ensure the BEREC tasks. So all these are the procurements that we are doing on our side for our internal needs, for the BEREC office, in order to ensure that the BEREC office is functioning well. We also have our administrative needs, and like, for example, very simple ones, health insurance for our seconded national experts, also interim working services. So all that you can consult on our website, and this is also the main page, apart from the funding and tenders, that is must. Of course, we need to publish all our calls for tender in the funding and tenders portal, but we are using also our website. We are using different social platforms like LinkedIn. Also, we are using the iepirkumi.lb, that is the local platform for different kind of procurements in Latvia. So if you search by your special words that you are interested in your market, you can find also our procurements. Our budget is 8 million like this year, and the number of procedures, of course, depends on the year. On average is around 20, 23, but still there are quite many. So I think there is an opportunity for different contractors to apply. And we also have a number of contracts, our own contracts. We are also joining the interagency calls for tender, and those contracts we are using a lot. As it was already mentioned by colleagues earlier, that it is also a very good opportunity how to enlarge this scope. And so what we would like to advise is that just really apply. Of course, sometimes procurement seems very, very difficult, very complicated process. There is a really many pages, many documents to be read. But once you read them, you can really understand what is the whole process. Across all the agencies, we are using more or less similar documents, similar templates, and this is also the idea to harmonize this. So if you do it once, I really can recommend that you will do it once, do it twice, and then the third, the fourth time will be much, much easier. Thank you. Next.
Hi, I'm Wojciech. I'm from Eurofund. Some people make jokes from the agency with a long name. So the European Foundation for the Improvement of Living and Working Conditions. Some people are also making jokes that we are mostly focused on improving our own conditions of living there. But you can see the numbers. It's more or less the same as the other colleagues said. So maybe I make a bit different notes to you. First, a personal note. I was landing yesterday here in Riga, and when we were landing, people started clapping. And I said, it's like in Poland. I don't know what's going on, but it seems that people from Poland and Latvia, when they land, they clap and they cheer the pilot. I found that very nice, and I felt like being at home. I have to say that Riga is beautiful, and I think it will be time to come again. But turning to procurement, we are mostly in research. I'm not sure whether any of you is in research, so I leave you the reading, because if you are interested in the area of research, in area of the industrial relations, social dialogue, we are the place to go and work with. But a few tips. Nobody yet mentioned the procurement is suffering from lack of competition. When you are looking for your business occasions, you sometimes may think that there is a huge competition on the market. The reality is opposite. And that's why I want to encourage you to procure with us, because the normal situation is that we are getting 2-3 offers per tender, max. Quite often we are just getting one offer. And that's the problem across member states. There is not enough competition, because in a way, those procedures are red tape, a lot of bureaucracy. And I have to say that unfortunately that's the case. That's why when the business goes well, the private businesses prefer to just go outside and do business-to-business things, because they don't want to waste time on papers and procuring with us. However, when the times are getting worse, we are actually becoming attractive because we are stable spenders. Our budgets are more or less every year the same, or increasing even, and we are giving those opportunities. So if any of you is thinking about tendering or getting into procurements in a wider scale, really take this seriously, because there is not a lot of competition on the market. You can relatively easily get into contracts and actually gain a stable source of income for your companies. So that's one thing which I really would like to underline. When it comes to us on the side of Eurofund, things are changing from year to year because also our tenders go in cycles like for the other agencies. So one year we spent 5 million, another year we spent 10 million. But what I really want to emphasize is that when you are going to the funding and tendering portal of the EU, you only see the current tenders which are incoming, almost like, 30 days before you see, okay, somebody is announcing, or 40 days before somebody is announcing, and then you have to be in a hurry. If you go on our page, you will see, and that's the same for other agencies, the plan for the whole year. What you can do as a company is literally screen agency by agency and see what's going to come, not just now, but in the second part of the year, so you can prepare. You can even contact us and say, look, I see something interesting in your plan. Would you please tell me a bit more about what it is about? Because usually in those plans, you only see the title, the budget, and that's more or less it. So that's another tip. And finally, and I think that is really important, that even though, yes, those tenders are red tape, there is a number of documents you have to provide, but once you go through this pain once, it's very easy to repeat, because more or less those tenders are the same. It's only about finding the niche for yourself. And for each of our agencies, we quite often are seeking companies from specific regions, because our mandates quite often makes us to monitor what's going, for instance, in Latvia, Estonia, Lithuania, and so on. And for Eurofund, for many years, we were and are having problems with finding companies in Latvia, for instance, because we have a specific contract for monitoring industrial and relations and social dialogue in each member state, and it's very difficult to find enough companies here interested to provide us such data. So when you look at what you do, just look what is your specialization and check which agency or EU institutions is seeking information from Latvia in your area, and then it's very easy to compete, because usually you are only one of few who can provide. So that's from my side. Thank you.
Okay, good morning again from Barbara from the European Training Foundation that is based in Torino in Italy. We are the only agency that is working in the context of the EU external relations policies. We actually do not provide training, although our name has training in it, but we support the countries around the EU to reform their education, training and labour market systems with a range of methodologies of studies. We work with countries from Central Asia to Sub-Saharan Africa, Ukraine, the Western Balkans, Turkey, with all the countries around Europe. Our procurement is a bit for making our agency work and function. So, of course, we procure standard things for facilities, for HR, for in the IT. And then we do a lot of procurement in our core business. We do a lot of studies and research, of course, related to our core business. We collect a lot of data and analyze data. So we procure statistical services, big data analysis. The ETF does a lot of seminars, workshops within the EU and outside of the EU in our field. So we procure events management services, travel management services, and activities related to study visits and peer learning activities. And we publish a lot of reports and publications because, of course, we're doing a lot of research you publish. So we do a lot of strategic communication procurement. We have a small budget. So this year we have 8.5 million euros earmarked for procurement. On our website, you will find our procurement plan. We update our procurement plan every 2 months. We have a status of what's going on, and you can always drop us an email if you're interested in a tender, and we'll tell you when we are going to launch it and also provide you a bit more details via email. So look for our website for the procurement plan and also for the status of the procurement. Of course, then we publish the tenders on the Funding and Tenders portal. But you can write to us at any time if you're interested in any of our activities and procurement. Because the tip up there has been repeated, I think, at least 30 times already this morning, what I wanted to give you is a different tip. So not everybody wins, unfortunately. But when you actually, when the procurement procedure finishes, you receive a notification letter. In the letter, you have the assessment of your tender. So read it carefully because it will tell you what your strengths were, but also what your weaknesses were. And what you can do, and my colleagues will kill me, you can write back to us, and we are obliged, only if you write to us, unfortunately, because the financial regulation has this strange rule in it, we can give you also the evaluation of the winning tender. So in the notification letter, you will have yours, and you can look at weaknesses and strengths, but you can also find out what were the strengths and the weaknesses of who has won. And that, I think, is a useful piece of information on top of reading all the procurement documents, looking back at who has won previous tenders to do joint or subcontracting, as our colleagues said. But it's a useful way to understand, I mean, how do I get better next time? Okay, thank you.
And also the price of the winner, you will see there.
Yeah.
Correct. Hello, everybody. My name is Daniel Laska, and along with my colleague Eva Belita, who's in the stands, today we are representing the EU Agency for Gender Equality, which is based in Vilnius, Lithuania. And I think out of that sentence that I just said, the most important thing is the geographical proximity. Because Vilnius, if you drive fast, I think is around 3 hours. If you fly, 50 minutes. And when Rail Baltica will be ready, well, we'll see. In general, we are an agency that supports evidence-based policymaking through implementing several areas of focus, operationally speaking, which is gender-based violence, gender mainstreaming, research and statistics. But of course, we also have a whole area with regards to outreach and communications, and of course, administrative needs. Predominantly, we procure services, so this should be even more appealing, so you don't have to drive those 3 hours or fly for 50 minutes. You can actually do most of the work, especially for the procurement services, from the comfort of your own office here in Riga or in general in Latvia. Predominantly, we do procure research, data collection, and studies. And through that, our operational products include, for example, something that is called the Gender Equality Index, which gets published every single year, or, for example, the monitoring of the United Nations Beijing Platform for Action. Now, I think you probably heard a few times today some of our colleagues saying that we're a small agency. And that's true. This goes for us as well. We're a similar size as our colleagues here in Riga, colleagues from BEREC. However, maybe to give you more of an idea what procurement in a small agency might also mean, some of the more juicy procurement procedures that we had recently, at least, so to speak. We recently had a procurement procedure for 4 million over 4 years, maximum budget, for the maintenance and development of statistics tools. That was for our operational unit. It was related to research and IT at the same time. So I think for a small agency, that's not too bad. Or, for example, one of our, let's say, flagship products, we also had a recent tender that just closed, was for the preparation of the Gender Equality Index, which is, again, a tender that is repetitive, and that was 700,000 euros over, I think, 4 years as well. In general, speaking on the side of, for example, administrative expenditures, because I understand, and I think Wojciech said this quite rightly as well, because he's in a similar position at Eurofound. Not everybody here specializes in studies, research, or data collection. With regards to administrative expenditures, even for this year alone, for a very small agency such as ourselves, we have budgeted 1.4 million, more or less, for ICT, furniture, legal services, or events. So we are definitely open to the market there. Many of our colleagues also mentioned about checking the procurement plan. It goes the same for IGA. However, we would like to maybe take it into a different direction. I see everybody has, nearly everybody, a phone or a tablet or a computer out. Please feel free to visit our procurement page at IGA, so it's iga.europa.eu, about us and procurement, and there you will see a lovely little button where you can actually subscribe to our procurement alerts. So you can do that today, tomorrow, and then whenever we post anything on our website with regards to procurement, that information will come directly to you in an email. If that is too much hassle, also, please feel free to find us on LinkedIn or some of the other social media, because we also do post there. We try to always broaden the market and invite as many of you as possible. Lastly, I think that top tip was mentioned quite a few times, but something that we see, and especially from our project managers' side, who sometimes for the bigger procurement procedures prepare market research, they input many hours and several weeks of preparation even. When we wait for the offers to come in and we try to monitor the submissions, for a long time we see nothing, and then within the last hour we see panic. Yes, I think for a lack of a better word. Please start early. Sometimes the systems that you will be using to submit offers might, I don't know, I don't want to say that they won't work, but maybe there'll be a glitch. Maybe there'll be a problem with your internet connection and you'll be 5 minutes over, 3 minutes over, it does not matter. Please start early, think ahead, feel free to reach out to us. Both Jeva and myself, during the lunch break, love to communicate and we're more than happy to speak to you. And if you want to find out more about our procurement plan, we will share that with you as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Daniel. So moving on to last but not least, EIOPA, the European Insurance and Occupational Pensions Authority, which will be, by the way, 15 years old next year. We are located physically in Frankfurt am Main, Germany. We are the EU Authority for Insurance and Pensions Supervision. We ensure consumer protection, financial transparency, and consistent regulation. We check that the insurance sector and the pensions industry gives European consumers a fair deal. To deliver for the people, businesses, and economy of Europe, we make 6 promises, and those are sustainable finance, digital transformation, supervision, policy, stability, and governance. Speaking about the primary procurement focus and needs, for us it is mostly market data because most of our decisions are based on, well, need to be based on market data. There is also the need to procure for studies such as behavioral research, financial inclusion, data bias, fairness metrics, and insurance, to mention a few. And of course, we also have part of the procurement which is related directly to the running of the day-to-day running of the agency, which, just like for any other agency, mainly includes the ICT equipment and services, could be event brokerage, staff training, yes, mostly these areas. To give you some idea about the procurement info, well, we're not a very large agency, we're around 200 people. In 2024, so last year, we launched 23 procedures in total. All of our information is, of course, available, just like for every other agency, is available on the Funding and Tenders portal, which we do encourage you to get acquainted with, and also on our EIOPA procurement homepage. Our top tip for procurement is to start early. I think this is the tip that you have already heard multiple times today, but yes, it is indeed very, very important to start early, to give yourself, especially if you're doing it for the first time, to start early, to give yourself enough time to read the documents, to read them well, to understand them, to collect your questions, to submit your questions on time, to also give us a little bit of time to reply to them, to give you a good reply to your questions. Indeed, well, thank you so much. That would be all for me.
Do you have questions at this moment to the colleague? Yes, please.
for the last speaker from IOPA, when it comes to market data, what do you mean by that? Is it like a data broker providing the data, or does that also mean data transfer, management, and cleaning? Thank you.
So mostly the market data relates to the services that, for instance, Bloomberg provides, the market data on the situation of the financial market.
This is really the data in the area of this an occupational pension, meaning how does the market look? Data, but it's just really data that, for example, Standard & Poor's, Market, Bloomberg, all the big companies are providing worldwide information that is important also to see for consumer trends and so on and so in the area of insurances, in this case specifically.
Maybe we can add that many agencies actually collect the data. So most of us in our fields collect data, analyze data. So you will find in many of our procurement plans statistical data collection, data analysis. And now I think that you will find also a lot of big data, AI to be used to analyze data. So, I mean, that's a trend. But data is certainly something that all agencies collect and use.
Indeed, that we haven't mentioned. And as Wojciech said, it's a lot of red type, but we are here now today to help you to understand this red type, and this was one of the purposes of the seminar, to give you information, to help, and thanks to Barbara, who is with us today, who had this idea primary, and the first seminar on this art was taking place last year in Torino, not in fact last year, but this year in January, so I'm mixing, I'm thinking it's last year, but in fact it was this year in...
No, it was 2024.
2024, so yeah, I'm a bit confused. Indeed, indeed.
Time difference.
Yes.
And the year's difference.
Yeah, a general question, I guess, to everyone. There from mentioned there is an option for notifications. Is there also an option for other agencies to receive notifications, or maybe some of an aggregator, so that you don't go to all of the websites to see the procurement procedures?
So I think most of our websites have an alert system, at least, I mean, I think most. So the aggregated data, you will find it on the Funding and Tenders portal. So that's the idea of the Funding and Tenders portal. This afternoon there's a presentation. In there you can sort per contracting authority, so it's not just the agencies, but it's also the institutions, so the Commission, the Parliament, the Court of Auditors. There is yet no aggregated procurement plans for all the agencies, but the idea, and thank you for actually again asking this question, because this is useful for our managements, is that we would like all the procurement plans to go up in this EU AN network, the agencies network portal, the one that Inga showed this morning. So I don't really know when it will happen, but at the moment all the recruitment plans are there. So, I mean, the more economic operators ask this question, the more we have leverage with our management team to try and get at least a link to our different websites. But there is actually all the websites, you can actually sort and you can find all the links to all the websites. So it's quite easy then from that portal, from that website, to go to the individual websites, but there is no common, let's say, agency procurement plan.
Yeah, I think I can add that important thing that in the funding and tendering portal allows you to search per this common procurement vocabulary. So the statistical number, let's say that you are in the web development business, you can find what it means in this CPV code, and then you can organize for yourself an automatic update for any tenders in this area coming up, and you can quite easily extract data from all EU institutions who are announcing any tenders in this area. But as I said before, in the portal you will only find information about tenders which are announced. So usually you don't then have much time to react. But at the same time, you know what you are specializing in. So what you can do, you can pick 3, 4 institutions which seems to you the closest to your area of work, and actually screen their pages for the plans. This is exercise, let's say, once, twice a year. You just see the plan and you can just see whether there is anything which could be of your interest. I know it's not so automatic and it's maybe not so efficient as it should be, but plans are also subject to change. So that's why there is kind of a balance to be struck to what extent you publish in the funding portal and versus just the general information on the page of the institution.
But the screening is important, and I think you can do it between January and March. And another screening that you can do is you can, because we, by June, all of us also publish a list of contracts awarded for the middle and low value procedures. And also we publish, at least the ETF publishes also on our website, every time we award an open tender. We also publish it on our website. So you should also continue to do a screening of who has won, because I think studying the others that have won is also important.
It's not a question. I will say something that I heard last week from a colleague in Digit. It is related to CPVs. So whenever we publish a tender, there is a CPV which might interest you. There are external companies that can send you notifications when a tender is published, and it has the specific CPV that is of your expertise. So you already know from day one that the call is published, and then you can go in the fund and tender portal and check the documentation.
If there are no more questions, thank you, colleagues. And the last part before we go for lunch, I hope it will be very interesting, and I'm very happy that Valds Vilnītis is today with us, who is going to share with agencies and with you his success story, which I think is very important. Let's welcome Valds Vilnītis, please.
Where do I sit? Anywhere, I guess. I've got a lot of space, right. And then I guess green is next and red is back, right? Yep. I'll check. Yes, it works. Yes. Good afternoon. My name is Valds Vilnītis, and I am one of the founders and chairman of the board of international consulting company called Elle. Latvian speakers understand what it means. I mean, for non-Latvian speakers, Elle in Latvian is hell. That's why most people remember the name of the company forever. But it's abbreviation from Estonian, Latvian, and Lithuanian environment. So what I'm going to say, I was not exactly sure what kind of profile will be in the room today. I was trying to make it as universal as possible, and I will try to cut it as short as possible, and then you'll be able to ask questions. So at first I will introduce the company so that you understand what I'm talking about. Then when I was preparing for this presentation, I got a question, why 25 years? I mean, Latvia is only 20 years in the EU. Yes, 25 years, and I will explain why 25 years. Experience in doing business with the EU. Then absolutely my personal, or at least our company's feeling of what kind of companies are doing business with the EU, at least in our part of the world and our part of the market. Then a little bit of selling points, tips and tricks. Here I see all speakers were sticking just to one top tip. I didn't know that, so I've got a page, like full page of them. And finally, a couple of contemplations about future challenges. And the important disclaimer is at the bottom. It is still very limited point of view. So we are more or less medium, small, legally small, but in fact medium-sized consulting company from a small EU member state. And environmental consultancy is not what exactly everybody in this room is doing. So it is still very, very small piece of the whole picture. And I believe people with different background and with different profile would have very different experience. Anyway, about us, we were established, well, 27 years ago. First, we did it in Riga, and then very quickly Estonian and Lithuanian sister companies followed. So at the moment, we have about 50 employees in 3 Baltic countries. The biggest one still is Latvian big sister. You see that's picture last year of nearly all our employees. Yes, and the name, okay, the name is Estonian, Latvian, Lithuanian Environment for simple reason because it was established by consultants from all 3 countries. At that moment, we were like really internationally established, 5 founders from 3 countries. We are doing everything in environment, like everything apart from engineering and design. That's what we are not doing. So we started with policy, legislation, plans and programs, and then we developed more and more in all environmental fields. You can imagine at the moment we're doing EIAs, we're doing strategic environmental assessment. We are doing a lot of nature management plans, so we're doing nature protection and biodiversity, also biodiversity inventories in the field. We are, for the last 10 years, we were very much involved with different issues related to climate change and climate change adaptation recently. We do air quality management and environmental noise management. Recently also risk assessment and management monitoring. We've got a laboratory and we are measuring air quality and environmental noise and others. We are also selling professional environmental software, like modeling software in these fields. And the 2 bullet points at the bottom is how we actually got outside the country. It's project preparation, monitoring, evaluation, capacity building, training, and development assistance. I put it in inverted commas because I think recently it's a little bit out of fashion, but still, at least at that time, it was exactly how it was called. I don't have it on slide, but just to get your understanding, our last year turnover was a little bit above 4 million euros. And about a little bit more than 1/3, so 1.5 million, is coming from the EU-funded contracts. Just to see, so like I say, we're standing on 3 legs. One leg is EU funding, so work for the EU. The other leg is public procurement in the Baltic countries, and the third one is private companies, where we're doing EIAs and environmental permitting mostly, and environmental monitoring. So, and then of course, when you have these kind of 3 legs, you're always feeling pretty safe, because when something is going down, then the other one still stands. It was a typical example in 2008 and 2009, when suddenly everybody got poor. Long-term contracts with the governmental institutions and with the EU are still there. Just one leg became very short because suddenly no private clients were able to pay for our services. Actually, nobody needed our services. But public contracts allowed us to survive. And then at some stage when government finances are not that great, then private development helps. So it's very good to have always this stable funding from the public authorities and ideally from the EU. It's long and stable money. A quick, a quick glance into our globe. It has most of the countries we've been working in, apart from some very small assignments in Vietnam, India, a long time ago also Russia, Belarus, and Turks and Caicos. So these 5 are not on the map. You see EU has one flag because a number of contracts we are involved currently in are for EU 27, where usually we are part of consortium covering part of the countries, not all the countries, but let's say the contracts, the assignments are covering the whole 27 countries and sometimes beyond. So, the history. First steps were in the very beginning of the company. Since it was established in '98, we were small subcontractors jumping into bilateral donor-funded projects in Latvia. So if you remember it, in 1990s, there were a lot of bilateral funding coming into the Baltic countries. The EU was not, until the very end of 90s, the EU was not spending that much money in a centralized way, at least for consultancy, but there were Swedes, there were Finns, there were Germans, there were Brits, there were French, and all of them were bringing a lot of bilateral assistance in. And of course, when consultants come into the country, they need to understand a little bit of a country background, and they always search for somebody who can help them. So they always search for local consultants, and we happen to be there exactly in the right place in the right time, because we could speak the language and we knew the institutional system and the legislation, so we were always piggybacking some bigger donor-funded projects in the country. And there were also, at that time, remember, there was EU FAR, a program for developing candidate countries, and we also got pieces and bits in different FAR-funded projects. But being subcontractor, it's very good for beginning, but it is hard work and not that much of satisfaction. So step 2 came a little bit later in 2001, and it was becoming partners of consortium, because then you are kind of on a second level or second step, because you are actually a little bit, but still participate in the overall process. You can still steer a little bit how the consortium is moving. You're getting a little bit more money in the end. And that was a very strange experience for us. It was the first case in our part of Europe, when Italian company decided that not only the Baltic company can be invited as a member of consortium. That was normal. Our competitors also were showing in some framework contracts, for example, from time to time. But we were offered to work not only with the Baltic countries, but also with the Nordic countries. Because the situation was, we had to monitor the projects funded by EU Life. At that time, it was only field of environment. It was the program covering all EU countries and the neighborhood, candidate countries, and also some other countries in the neighborhood, like North Africa and Russia, and some other. And They said, okay, we have 7 companies and we have to share the European countries between us. Can you do also the Nordic countries, because we have no Nordic partners? I said, well, I mean, we have been working a lot with Danes, with Swedes, with Norwegians. Yeah, let's do it. And it was great fun. Because on one hand side, it was good. We really knew the situation in the countries, but then we need at least some people who speak the languages. So we needed to subcontract Nordic consultants. And that was shock. That was really shock, because we could find people. We actually had enough money to get them at market prices. Well, maybe not the market price because EU, like Nordic countries, always were too expensive for average EU funding. But we could find good deals. The trouble is that didn't understand how can it be that Latvian company is managing, let's say, a Swedish consulting company. No, it can't be. It was so funny when we were trying to negotiate the contracts, and they say, well, I mean, you are signing in the wrong side. I said, no. I mean, I'm signing with contractor, and you are subcontractor. Oh, yes. Oh, I forgot. I never thought I would ever be subcontracted by a Latvian company. So it was really cultural shock. But over a couple of years, we went over it, and it was a success. And we were involved in monitoring of live funded projects up till now in very different kind of setups and companies. So step 3 was in 2005 when we, together with several other companies, established EEIG, or European Economic Interest Grouping. And that's one thing what I would highly recommend as a tool how to join forces with several other companies from other European countries, because EEIG is absolutely wonderful instrument. The good thing it is it works the same in all EU 27, which means it is a regulation. It's not a national legislation, it is EU regulation, and when you say it's EEIG, it's understood in the same way in all EU 27. So if you want to know more, I'm happy to discuss this in a break, but it was quite a success. The important thing, the difference between EEIG and traditional consortium, in a consortium there is always one lead company, and this lead company, well, consortium is successful if lead company is honest and well organized. It's not always the case. I mean, I've never had these delays with payments as we had with our Italian partners. I think it was about 10 months normal cycle between you invoice the company and they get the money from the EU and they pay us. But it's very normal. I mean, we always do like this in Italy. Okay, I mean, we had to make sure that our cash flow survives that, but after surviving first 2 years, I mean, we got used to it, and then it's okay. But when it's EIG, it is your own company. You, together with your partners, decide how it will be governed, and you are equal in this case. So it is much better to manage complicated setups and work in more than one country. And then step 4, what we actually also did in 2005, and we keep doing it, actually bidding ourselves and leading consortia ourselves. It's not very frequent, but on average every 3-4 years we have a larger projects where we pick up partners for ourselves. Now, saying all that, I just wanted to reiterate that in most cases we work for 2 institutions. So one is EU as such, the European Commission as such. It was mostly DG Environment, and recently a lot of these functions were moved to EASM and then later to SINEA, which is executive agency dealing with implementation of Green Deal. And the other, it's mostly development funding in third countries. So when it goes to work in candidate countries and in neighborhood countries. So we didn't really work much for the EU funding here in Latvia, with some exceptions. Now, once again, it's a point of view of small company and from small EU member state, because here we go into the big ocean where big sharks are swimming, and we are very small, small fish in a corner of coral reef. So who is doing business with the EU, at least in consulting business? These are large international engineering companies. In many cases, they are not even coming originally from the EU. In many cases, they are Americans, Canadians, but of course, they always would have a local branch. Usually it's in Brussels, but not always, but I mean, there would be usually representation in Brussels. And I would say they take all the cream. Then, as you see, the second biggest, in my feeling, what's called body shops, meaning companies who don't really have technical expertise as such. They have project management expertise, and they're very effective and efficient in writing proposals and then winning the tenders and managing the contracts. Why they're called body shops? Because they actually go to the big databases, worldwide databases with freelance consultants. They prey on smaller specialized companies, and they actually collect from the databases. Consultants put them into their proposals, and they manage effectively a team of people who never met each other before. It's a skill. Sometimes it leads to disastrous results for their client, but it's a choice they are willing to make. Then there are professional companies and non-profit institutions like institutes, like associations. When I speak about professional companies, something like what we are doing, so working with actually with the technical input. And then the smallest part of this plankton are local partners. So when you have to work in a country or several countries, then you always want somebody to speak the local language, understand local customs, and help you with the language and logistics. Yes, and why it is so? Because size does matter, the way how the procurement in the EU is built. I don't say about the procurement by the agencies, probably it's not that much, but when we speak about centralized procurement by the Commission, size does matter, and the criteria are built in a way that even medium companies have no chance to get in. I started later. Will I have extra 5 minutes? Tell me. I started 22 minutes to 1, and I still have 1.5 slide. Yes, it's now. I can go a little bit further. Okay. So here we are to selling point, tips, and tricks. So I will come back again to the issue of large procurements in a second, but first tip is don't be afraid to try. You can always try. Nothing bad will happen if you lose a tender. If you lose 10 tenders, also nothing bad will happen. But second tender is always easier to do than the first one, because you have half of your paperwork is ready. And after you've lost 5 tenders, you start even understanding why you have lost, and which parts of the paperwork you did before could be reused, and which parts you better forget and start again. So once again, experience does matter. Not only size, but experience as well. And the chance that you can stick to a big shark to win a big tender is if you can show a really strong technical experience. Because that's what usually these big universal companies, body shops, what they lack technical experience. They can do everything, but they don't know anything, you know. So they always depend on their smaller partners to draw technical expertise from, and that's your selling point. So important is that the bigger projects you have under your belt, the better, and also the more projects in a particular area where you're working in you have, the better. In any case, in most cases you will have to cooperate. It's very hard to win large tender alone, so probably it's possible to do for some small technical or admin jobs for smaller agencies, but let's say in a world where like big consultancies living, you start speaking about hundreds of thousands to a couple of millions. Whenever possible, just try to block with friendly companies whom you know professional already, who have good reputation and who have values similar to yours. If you want to increase your size, make an EIG and then go as EIG, because that makes you bigger, and still you are independent in all other parts of your life, apart from particular procurement. If selection criteria are too tight for you, so the technical experience what's requested in the tender selection criteria is more or less like, let's say, 3 projects, at least 1 million each in the last 3 years in a particular field. It's normally it's a killer. It's a killer. I mean, for a company of our size, it's a killer by definition. You have to be a 80 million turnover company to start thinking of some getting in there. So you have to stick to somebody bigger to get into the procurement. Now there are big and friendly sharks, and there are big and not very friendly sharks, and there are sharks which definitely will eat you by the end of the project. So you have to be very careful and see if you propose your support and cooperation to a reputable partner or not that much. Usually people in the field know, let's say, who is who. International networks matter. When you have EU 27 assignment, which frequently happens on some particular research studies or some data collection studies, even small companies have a very good chance, because usually there is a request that at least 15 languages of the European Union have to be covered, for example, like in-house knowledge of 15 languages. For example, offices should be located in at least 5 countries of the European Union, something like that. And in that case, of course, it's your chance, because you show, we have good partners in 3 other countries or in 4 other countries. Our staff speaks, not only English and Latvian, but also ideally, let's say, Lithuanian, Polish, and Czech. And then you are very strong, because you can cover a large part of the European Union, and you are useful to bigger companies from West Europe. The next thing about these service providers, what I want to say, it's about these commercial services which are collecting information for you about tenders. Because it's not, you can of course follow all tenders yourself using the EU e-tender platform. But sometimes you rely on the companies which do it for you, and they do it well and not very expensive. But sometimes there are companies who also provide a database of consultants and of potential subcontractors. It's very good to use this information. The trouble is that they do not sort these consultants, sub-consultants by quality, which means CVs are beautiful, and then you find out that a person whose CV you have picked up doesn't speak even English and cannot explain why he or she is actually there and whose CV it is. So, be very critical to these services provided by professional networks. Some of them are actually run by your competitors as well, so be prepared for that. So tender electronic daily is definitely the best reliable source and always works. I think this tip was done by everybody. You should read all the procurement documents well and do exactly as prescribed, like read the screen, like read every letter, and don't try to interpret. I mean, just do exactly as it said. Then one very technical thing, be prepared to produce a bank guarantee exactly in the form requested. I mean, the form is absolutely stupid. Every bank will tell you that we cannot issue a guarantee like this. I mean, what do they think when they produce such a form? I mean, unfortunately, somebody who has invented this form of bank guarantee insists that that's the only one. And then usually you and bank are losing and they are winning. So it's a question, how many times will you try to redo it? So you better insist that your bank cooperates and does exactly as it is. Usually it costs you more money and more hassle to convince them. Sometimes insurance companies do better. They are less serious than a bank. It would cost you more money. But in some cases, insurance companies simply cannot provide you with bank guarantee for some reasons. When it's a guarantee for advance payment, it's sometimes cheaper to avoid like taking advance payment instead of freezing the same amount of money in the bank, take advance payment and basically bring it to the bank to freeze. So be prepared to make sure that you can self-finance the whole project. And then one more thing, if you're running into fee-based contract, which tend to be many, it's a lot of administrative work, so be prepared that you have the capacity in your company. One more thing, what I remembered in last minute when the slides were ready, I wanted to say one more thing about the big consulting companies, why it is sometimes a hassle to the client. Because usually the big companies which are specifically designed to win big tenders with the EU, there are two different teams working with the project. One team is preparing the proposal, and another team is running the project. So those people who write the proposal, they will not work with the results. Sometimes consultants see the winning proposal at the moment when they're contracted, which is after the company has won the tender, which means they don't know what is written there. They find out what they have to do when they see the winning proposal. What company is promising to do in the proposal, those people who wrote the proposal will never see the job itself. And it is very uncomfortable situation, which normally happens when you hire somebody to write a proposal. Somebody suggested here that you have to hire somebody to write a proposal for you. Don't forget, it is this particular risk that you hire a consultant, writes a proposal, off he goes, and then one day you find out that it's beautiful and it's winning proposal, but it's undoable on the ground. And then finally, I'm at future challenges, where I would say I've mentioned already criteria in favor of large contractors. Recently, price levels which are expected by the EU institutions are behind real market price and behind actual costs. I don't know why, what happened. I think it's like last 3 years, very particularly, we noticed that. In many cases, it's like you have to analyze reports on particular issue for the last 10 years from EU27, which is like a lot of reading, and you have 20 days for doing that. And I just wonder, how can you compile a team who can do, 300 reports in 20 days? Probably they already think that you will take, AI to do it. And then probably the results will be also checked by another AI, and one day it will be, competition between two AIs. I mean, who's got the cooler one, the client or the consultant? Recently, micromanagement of the contracts becomes fashionable by many EU EU organizations. If earlier it was just admin part, let's say, really going into every reimbursable expenses, into every timesheet, and hanging about hour here, hour there on 2 million contract. Now, for some reasons, they also get into the content, and they start really, really trying to say how it should be done, why it should be done. No, you cannot use Facebook, you have to use Instagram. No, you're not allowed to use Facebook, but you have to use Instagram, No, you don't have to use LinkedIn. No, you don't publish anything on LinkedIn. I don't like LinkedIn. I like Instagram. Let's do everything on Instagram. I mean, these kind of things. No, you have to have, modern music with your video. No, you can't use classical music. You have to have hip hop. I mean, these kind of things. So a lot of fun, but talking funny things about clients is, it can go for hours. And then, of course, when we speak about our part of the world, it's difficult to find people to work Europe-wide, not only because of language. Young people are brilliant with languages now, but because in many cases they simply lack perspective. They know one or two countries well, and they don't really see the continent as one big playing field. Thank you very much. Sorry for being late.